right, shalom and welcome to Rivkush, the CJN podcast featuring conversations with Jews of color talking about all topics Jewish. Today, I am so excited. I'm so excited. I don't even know if I can even find the words. I'm so excited to have Rain Pryor with me today. Her bio, incredible. I don't even know if I can give it justice, but I'm going to give it a go. Rain Pryor is a dynamic speaker, spokesperson, award-winning actress, singer, writer, comedian, producer, mom, wife, everything. Many, many hats, and they all fit. And all of those hats reflect her eclectic mix of Judaism and her African-American roots. One of Rain's mentors told her, if you wait for the world to come to you, you will always be waiting. Find what you want to do and go and do it. And I think that totally defines what I have seen Rain do, who she is, everything. She is constantly creating, inspiring. She inspires me to do my best. She wants people to just live their life to the fullest.
Yes.
That's what I get from her. And I know your work is not done. I know. And I'm telling you, Rain, I follow I'm a lurker on Facebook. And let me tell you, you are one of the people I make sure I see what is going on. So thank you and welcome. If people could see my face and be like, this
I know,
huge
right?
grin.
Hilarious.
Oh my gosh. So how's it going? Because your life is busy. How's it going?
It is busy. It's going. I'm glad I was able this year to enjoy some of the summer before we're not going to be able to enjoy it again. So I'm glad to be out there doing what, exploring and seeing things with my daughter and having life and celebrating life this year because, been through some health stuff. And so it's just such a celebration right now for me, and it put a lot of life in perspective for myself. And so,
And absolutely. And speaking of, you've been very open and very candid about the issues that you have been facing with your health. And can you share, how are you today? Because I know it was a lot, I presume, mentally, physically, spiritually. Where are you today?
Look, where I'm at today is I'm in a place of acceptance. I accept the fact that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm lucky. Apparently it was the good breast cancer. So, which means it's easy, quote unquote, to get treated, so I had that. I'm still going through the recovery process. And that's been interesting because I'm a person that likes to get up and go, and realizing my own limitations and accepting that at the moment. Flying was great until you get swollen from flying because you still are healing, and I
never even thought of that.
Right. Neither did I. And then I have another surgery. The follow-up surgery to the surgery I just had happens in a week and a half. So I'm totally going through all the feelings again, which is okay. And I've accepted that. I accept that because it's part of life. And, it's funny that you said I was so candid about it. And I feel I had to be because we all struggle with something, in our lives. We struggle. It's over the past year. I think we all saw a lot of, whether it was, racial disparity, health disparities, people passing away from sickness and disease. And you heard so much about it. I think so being candid, I'm human and this happens and you still pick up and go because I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I direct, I'm trying to write this series, all these things are still happening.
Right.
And, so you just show up and you're you realize you have to live a life in the moment because we don't know what the next moment is. No, even when we're planning, we don't know. Nobody said,
You're
oh, by
right.
the way, in the middle of this rain, you're going to have heart disease. Oh, and guess what? Cancer. Like, nobody gave the warnings.
Dang.
Hello.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's like when you plan life. Yeah,
It shows up. And so,
right?
I'm one of those, as you see, like, I'm going to live it. All right, throw it at me. Let's go live it. Even when I'm
Well,
tired or I'm not feeling great. Yeah, you live it.
it's a fantastic role model for your daughter, Lotus. I mean,
Aww.
you're setting such an example that, you rise up. You rise
Thank
up
you.
and you push through. And I have to tell you, I love your TikToks of you dancing. And I have to say, like, I've been up here doing this stuff too. Sorry?
I have to beg to be in my daughter's TikToks. I have to be like, can we do a TikTok?
No.
And she's like, I don't know if you're going to learn the dances. And so they have to be like, well, teach it to me. And she's like, oh, my mom has to be in all my videos.
Oh, like she doesn't recognize that we've been dancing and doing that stuff pre-TikTok.
Thank you. She doesn't care. Like, I'm so unimpressive to her. Like, anything I do, like if I said, oh, I'm going to go sing jazz and blues in New York City in this club that was known for X, Y, and Z. She's like, and people are really going to pay to hear you sing.
Oh, dear. God love our children.
Yeah. Do they know you make me clean my room?
Oh, the horror.
I know.
The
horror. God. Terrible.
It's like, you see, and I would have been, because I'm kind of hardcore, I would have said, be happy you have a room to clean.
That happens too. Yeah. Like, we can move you in the attic if you want, with like, who knows what's up in the attic, but you can be up there in the hotness.
You can discover it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of parents, I mean, your parents, and
Crazy.
One of the questions I want to ask you is because, sometimes, I don't even know if I should say sometimes, I'm sure you're used to Rain Pryor, daughter of, recognizing that's cool, but also you are Rain. And so, for our audience, she is the daughter of Richard Pryor and the daughter of Shelley Bonus. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Or am I putting a Canadian? I'm putting a Canadian spin on it,
Canadian spin on it. It sounds so chic. Yes, please. I love it.
I almost said
can't wait to tell my mom. Yeah, I'm like, oh. And then if you look on Ancestry or 23andMe, it's like Bonois, just so you know. There's like different spelling. Yes, we have a Bonois, but none of us are French. So just saying.
Okay.
It's all like Russian, Polish. Yeah, very interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, so not only are you Jewish, because your mom, she's Jewish, you are also obviously African-American, so you're biracial. And so it's like you're carrying multiple identities with, in yourself. And how was that growing up? And recognizing also you grew up in a particular environment that is foreign to me, but how was that? How was it?
I grew up in so it's funny. Me and my one of my best girlfriends, also a Black Jewish girl, grew up we're the same age, Malik Berger. We were just talking about that the other day, that we grew up in a different generation. So we grew up in the generation where there wasn't a lot of us around, like 4 years from us, 5 years from us. Yes, there was. But at our time, it was very different. And our mothers were very militant about our Blackness, as well as you're also Jewish women. The difference, let's say, between Malik's mom and my mom is my mom took on, I'm going to be your African-American role model with my blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm going to wear a dashiki and Afro wig to school because you got called the N-word and the principal needs to know that your mom is hip.
Okay, so how did that work out for you? How did that work out for you when your mom shows up?
Oh yeah, totally interesting. Because mind you, this is pre-Rachel Dolezal in the U.S., right? So this isn't like, oh, I believe I'm a Black woman. This is like, no, I am doing this in support of my child in an era that was like, what are you doing?
Dang.
You're a white woman, you know, like you're not
Dang.
supposed to do that. And is this really your child? Like she's different than you. So that was the era in which I grew up in. And so finding, you know, being able to find who Rain was going to be a journey of a lifetime, because, you know, there wasn't representation in our synagogues. There wasn't representation in literature of us. You know, there still isn't, which is part of,
agreed,
you know, why we're here, you know, having conversation and holding space to go, we are here, we exist, and we're a part of this ancestry and a part of this culture, you know. Yeah.
Your mom sounds pretty fierce.
She is pretty fierce.
Because that takes a lot. That takes a lot. Because even when I reflect on, because I did see this somewhere, even when I reflect on when you were born, I believe it was 4 years after Loving
the
versus,
Loves. Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Right. So
Virginia.
we know that tensions like it would have been incredible regardless of who was getting married. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if it's Richard Pryor and whoever. It's like Black man, white woman. That's
absolutely
it.
You don't do that in that era, you know. And we're still talking about it. Isn't that crazy? It's 2020.
Because it's still happening. It's still happening, you know.
Yeah.
My children are biracial, so I was a product. I was married to a white man, and even in Canada, we'd get the looks or because people like to say, "Oh, Canada, it's not a problem." It's like, yeah, we're just polite about it,
right?
And, you know,
right.
so I get the looks.
The UK.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But, or you get the questions like, oh, you know, you have the groceries on the thingy.
Belt.
Yes, the belt. And people, oh, you're together? No, right. I'm just paying for his groceries just for bleeps and giggles. Like, seriously?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I hear it. Now how did your family manifest Judaism in your household? Like, I get, you know, from day one, you knew who you were. Did you do all the holidays? Did you do, you know, the markers of Jewish stuff?
We did the marker. So my family was culturally into Judaism. My grandparents went to temple once in a while, you know what I mean? The high holidays, that's when you go to temple, show your face, see your friends, you know, and talk about how you really need to be going to temple on Friday nights, but you don't, right? So that was our family. We are culturally Jewish in our household. Like, whereas my friend that I was just telling you about is the opposite. Like, she speaks Hebrew, she reads Hebrew, her kids have been bat mitzvahed, you know, and bar mitzvahed, and our family just didn't believe in that. Like, my mom was never even bat mitzvah. So it's not something, but culturally, we were Jewish. Culturally, you know, I sat down and would do Torah study with my grandfather, or my grandmother would teach me how to make latkes and how to make brisket. And then you could get older and you realize, well, everybody makes their brisket differently, and we make ours like this, but maybe my sister's family makes it, you know, with I think she uses ketchup. I don't know, but it's different.
Yeah.
Different, you know, than my household does it.
Yeah. But you're all doing the brisket.
We're all doing the brisket. And I always identified as Jewish, and I also identified as Black. Like, it never was something I questioned. What I had trouble with was the era I grew up in, because of not having us represented in that space, was the conflict other people had with me being Jewish, you know, which is something we're talking about now in 2020, which is, you know, as we enter Jewish spaces, not being asked, who did you come with? You know, but assuming that maybe we're there on our own.
Go figure.
This is who we are, right? And even with my daughter, I think she's growing up, because that's how I grew up, culturally Jewish, and getting a lot of her Jewishness, I think, from my friends that I surround myself with, who are like, what? You didn't do Shabbos dinner? What? Lotus, come here, light the Shabbos candles. you know.
Nice.
You know, teaching her how to make challah, because I love making challah, you know? Yeah.
I have yet to make a challah. I have like 1,000 recipes. I've
my
learned how to
God.
bake bread over COVID. So my
Of
next natural
course.
step should be that. But
That's
I,
how.
and girl, I'm sure I can braid, you know, that the Jamaican in me, I think I can braid. So,
Hilarious.
so yeah, I just haven't taken that step. So maybe after this, it'll spur me on to say, I'm going to make the challah too.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking of, like, you
Yes.
mentioned the word latkes.
Yes.
Let's talk about fried chicken and latkes.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. What was the genesis of that? What?
You know, that came out of what you read in my bio. So that came out of, you know, being in the industry and kind of feeling like I kept hitting the same type of marginalized wall, which is you're not Black enough for the Black roles. You're not white enough for the white roles. People can't conceive that Black comes in all different shades. So it's really a look that I did not have. And so how can I make my mark? And I didn't want to do stand-up. Everyone kept pushing me because obviously my dad. So being Richard Pryor, oh, she must be funny too. So let's push her into stand-up. And I'm funny in my own way, but I'm not stand-up funny. I did stand-up. I did an album. It was okay. Like, it's not great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise I'd have a special. So it obviously wasn't great. But I did it. And so creating Fried Chicken Latkes really started off with me just throwing some characters and some music and doing a cabaret show, and then acting out these characters in between and going into a song. That's literally how it started. And in 2001, and I have been doing it ever since until COVID. That's when everything stopped. For the first time in my life, like, I wasn't on tour.
Wow.
I have gone every year. I'm performing at least 4 times, you know, a year. And then all of a sudden, you know, or creating like my series with some big named people, but everything in COVID just shut it all down and done. So and so now I'm in the process of learning how to technically create a script and put it out there and maybe produce it myself somehow for television, you know, or film. But I think those stories of Black Jewishness and multiracial Jewishness needs to start to be told. So
absolutely.
That's where
absolutely.
I'm at. Yeah.
What can you share any current projects that you're working on right now?
Well, honestly, what I am currently working on, and it's out there in the world, is the script. So I wrote a first draft, I put it out there, and just, you know, it's everything in the industry is so hurry up and wait. And so, you know, that's where I'm at. We're in the process of shopping and meeting with people and hoping somebody is like, yeah, that sounds great. And at the same time, oh, my goodness, I'm also in Cornell University, online, Cornell University,
Yes.
getting my DEI certification. And so
Yes.
I get that in September. I'm so excited. I'm on my second to last class. And I'm thrilled for that. So literally that's what I like. That has been what COVID has done for me, is gotten me into a space of put it into action. You know, like, I can't wait on other people to get my idea. Sometimes you have to create the idea and then they go, oh, that's what she was talking about. It's very interesting. Like, you expect people to automatically have that light bulb and go, oh yeah, we aren't hearing those stories. Let's tell that.
Yeah.
But, you know, so you do it yourself. I'm all about it.
Absolutely.
Make it happen.
Absolutely. Wow.
I'm safe right now. Nobody else can.
So speaking of the industry, now I can't even remember when this happened, because I remember waking up in the morning one morning and seeing this article about the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, I believe is the word. And I was like,
I don't know what they're doing. You don't hear much from them.
But I don't hear much. And you know what was glaring to me? Because I have looked at the names and I'm like, where is the OG? Where is Rain Pryor? Like, are you kidding me right now?
I know.
I was a little taken aback.
So was I. And look, it happened. Was it, you know, I don't feel it was anything personal. I just feel like, okay, I'm not in the fame game. You know, I don't know how to play Hollywood. And that's the truth. I've never been good at it. And I'm all right with that because I have a life. So, you know, but I felt that, yeah, I have been doing this work literally and talking about it, not only since I've done my show in 2001, but before that, it's something I talked about and I stood up for. And so you would think that pulse would have been there. And the fact that my name has been in the trades, for the fact that I was at the time working with Norman Lear to create this series about growing up Black and Jewish, that maybe you would have thought to reach out to me. And so, when I see things like that and you aren't involving, to me, and not to say that the people involved aren't real Jews of color, but what I noticed again is that we keep segregating ourselves. So it was either you were Black and then you were Jewish, but there was no Black and Jewish, or you were very physically representative of a race or a culture. And so I'm excited and eager to see what's going to be created outside of that with people who are actual Jews of color, to talk about the both ands of where we sit within our communities all over the world. This is a global thing. This isn't just, special to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
This is a global issue that we come in many shades and different forms of who we are and how we identify. And that we need to learn to see that I can be a supporter of Black Lives Matter and a supporter against anti-Semitism.
Absolutely.
And that I don't have to choose. That it's because it's a part of who I am, and that I can see where, as a Black person, there are disparities and inequities that need to be, and social injustices that need to be addressed that we haven't addressed in the United States. And I can see where, as a Jew, we still need to face the hatred that we see and the unconscious biases that we present when we talk about Judaism or Jews.
Right. Well said. I feel the same way, because we tend to talk about racism,
right?
Specifically anti-Black racism, and we talk about anti-Semitism,
right?
Not recognizing that they are branches of the same tree,
right?
And that we should be doing this together. And I think I saw the BET special that you were on.
Oh yeah.
And it was good. It was good to hear. It was good for me in that, I say some of those things, and it's great to hear other Jews saying it also. It's almost like, okay, it's not just me,
Right.
And it
was the tip. It was the tip of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So that whole presentation was a tip of the conversation that really needs to happen and continue. And I really felt that it should have been, it should have been a long,
more than 20 minutes, than 20 minutes, if we're even talking time frame, because there's so much more round table. That would be great, but nothing is stopping us from continuing the conversation. And, we touched on your experiences in the Jewish community. What is your experiences within the African-American community as a Jew?
My experience as an African-American and the Jew is the same thing as when I enter Jewish spaces and get asked, so how are you Jewish, or who did you come with, right? So I don't wear Judaism on my skin. I'm not white reflective of what the idea of Jewishness is supposed to look like in Black spaces, right? Unless I'm with Jews of color who get it. Right. So it's the same thing. It's not a conversation that's had, when it comes up, you hear the same tropes that you've heard before, or you're in a conversation with someone and they bring up, well, that Jew took my money and, and so you deal with that. So that's what I'm saying. I get it on both sides. I always have. And so how the work that I really want to do, and I'm working with a great organization also called Mosaic, with another Jew of color, Dee Sinai, who's Japanese and Jewish. And, my goal is to help bring that awareness that, again, we come in all shapes, sizes, and hues, and can have two standards of beliefs. So, because I have my African spirituality, which I hold on to, which is my Ifa with the ancestors. And then I have my Judaism, which is, whether it's my knowledge of what I know of Torah, and I can bring that, forth to the table.
Right. It's interesting because when we look at the history, and there's a great documentary, Shared Legacies, and when we look at the history of African Americans and Jews, it was like this. They were very intertwined. What do you think? Because I struggle to understand where the divide happened, why it happened, and how do we get it back? That's more weight than the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, like that would be weighty, if that makes any sense.
Say what the question is again, one more time.
So whenever I after the George Floyd murder, there was a lot of talk in the Jewish community about how, we've always supported civil rights and we walked with Martin Luther King Jr. I thought to myself, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. But, because that was like the year of my birth. Okay. So it was a long time ago. Right. But as I think about it, and then I saw the documentary Shared Legacies, and I'm like, yeah, there was a deep connection and a deep,
but there was and there wasn't. So
okay, so that's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, there was and there wasn't. So there was a handful, and I really will say a handful, and maybe a couple of small organizations that stood behind social justice movements, and especially during the civil rights era. But each group stood still in its own space. Even though they come together to march against something and were supportive of you, we still stood in our own spaces. So there wasn't yet, how do we bring this together? How do we group this together? Because if it did, we wouldn't have the conversation of, again, going to temple and being asked why or who are you here with, right? It would just be knowledge that we're here to worship the same as anyone else sitting here to worship, not just because we look different than. And in that era, if you look at who, it's like, so I put it this way, my grandmother, grew up in a different era. So her family was from Russia. She's a second generation immigrant, but she grew up here. And so, growing up, her idea was that the conversations were always like, I care about the Black people, you're a people.
You do that well. I see like your grandmother, and I
right.
But anyways,
and so that's what I mean. There was a sense of, we support you, but not this universal, I'm going to stand beside you and we're going to be integrated into each other's lives, knowledge, spirituality, and culture. And that's where I think we have made a mistake, is that in order for me, like, I'm supposed to hopefully in October speak to a Christian apostolic Christian congregation about.
Can you define say it again?
See, I can't say it either.
What is that?
So it's just like, it's another sect of Christianity. I believe they wear white gloves, and it's very like not Pentecostal, but it's close to that.
It's in that gotcha.
Category. So anyway, I'm supposed to go speak at the church because I was part of a coalition to bring into a ceremony that the Baltimore City school system wants to have, a welcome back to school event. And I said, what about involving the Jewish Federation of Baltimore into it, either being, someone who can give you money for your event or set up a table? Because I think that's how you start it. If I don't know about you, then I can't be aware of you. I can't be aware that I'm also behind the things that you're fighting for, and your children and but that's how you do it, is by the integration of our communities and an understanding of who we are, our beliefs that are not so different from what you believe, other than when it comes to Jesus. You know what I mean? Like that's where it ends and we begin, and vice versa. So, but that's okay. That when we learn how to accept someone else for their differences, we grow as a community. When I can be inclusive and say there's a big celebration around Christmas time, and there's also Hanukkah on its heels or in front of it, depending on the calendar year, maybe we can combine and have a celebration of both for the community to come together. So that's
Absolutely.
that's where I'm trying to target,
That is
You know what I mean?
awesome.
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes, I hear you. I hear you. That is awesome. You actually, when you said Jesus, you made me laugh because people have asked me, what happens, when somebody who's Black in Canada finds out I'm Jewish. I said, well, usually if they're from Jamaica, they kind of go, oh, okay, because there's a big Jewish population at one point in Jamaica. I said, but I said sometimes they look at me and they're like, oh, girl, you need Jesus.
Right.
So I just flashed to that, and I'm like, I'm good.
That's so funny.
I'm good, but we can still get on. Ain't no thing, right?
Right.
But so I agree. I think that is the way to kind of merge. So you had mentioned Baltimore.
Yes.
And I remember that you were running for city council.
I did.
Because I was like, you go. And I would like you to talk about what precipitated that, because it is, it is a thing.
It is a thing.
Pushed you.
The reason I decided, as what I call myself, a lay person in politics, I really am a lay person. I have no political aspiration. I really don't. But I felt in my city that when my daughter was going in public school at the time, was severely bullied, no one dealt with it. And I felt that was unacceptable. And it's so prevalent. Across our nation. First of all, it's very prevalent. So I spoke up and I realized people were listening, and I said, well, then maybe I need to use my voice for political purposes to help bring awareness to certain issues and maybe help also within my community. And then I realized the game of politics. Very interesting. I will never run for politics again.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
share.
Right. Yeah. No, because I realize it's a beat. So my work is better served on the ground. My work is better served in what I create visually or aesthetically, what I want to create culturally, about bringing communities together. And politics is very much about sometimes being able to let something go that you really, really wanted over here by doing something over here in this field that maybe you weren't prepared or wanted to be a part of.
Right.
But I don't know how to do that, because if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I don't know how to kiss your butt and tell you something different. And so I knew then I'm not going to win, but I didn't lose badly. I got 36% of the vote on my first time ever running for office.
That's freaking awesome.
During COVID.
Pretty darn awesome.
Right. So I was doing well, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't go knocking on doors because I'm a high risk. So I couldn't go knocking on people's doors, and I couldn't do it from a hospital bed because I was in the hospital also, but I did the best I could do. So I was proud of my 36% of the vote. I'm still proud when I walk around in my neighborhood and in my community and people say, I voted for you.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to run again? I'm like, no. And I tell them why, and they get it. I said, because I don't know how not to be so vocal about my opinions about how government and what you're doing is so foul. So
okay, that's telling it like it is. So what you're really saying is you don't have a filter, so it wouldn't be that great.
It really, I think I could have helped to make change. And then I'm realizing, so we have a city council that constantly is telling us, yeah, but it's not within my power. But you have a voice and you're on the news, so you can make it your power. It might not be something the council literally can vote on from your seat, but you're in a position to use your voice for a higher calling or a higher good, and you're choosing not to, or passing the buck on to somebody else. I can't do that. I'm like, no, I'm going to go talk to so-and-so, in DC about why we can't change the policies around, violence and harassment in our schools.
Exactly. So whatever happened with the bullying incident and how is Lotus?
She's amazing, but nothing happened. And so we moved her because we could at the time, even though it was a struggle. We moved her to private school, believe it or not, where she's thriving. where the culture, the climate and the culture of inclusivity is different. So she feels secure and she's thriving. She's, even when she was getting bullied, she still got A's and B's, but now she's really getting A's and B's and has friendships and is learning about, how to have healthy relationships with her peers. And so I couldn't be more thrilled.
Good. Because,
when
but
yet
children...
the problems still exist in the schools. Just today, there's an article that came out about Baltimore City schools that Fox News was doing, that there's going to be a big protest on August 3rd in front of City Hall to try and remove the administrator of Baltimore City school system. They're asking her to step aside and let someone else in because we're failing our kids time and time again.
Yeah, because they're
Don't get me started, girl. I can go on forever.
No. The bullying thing, I'm actually getting chills because it just, even thinking about it, hurts my heart, at the effect that it has on our people who are little people who are trying to find themselves, find their way in this world.
Well, we have this philosophy, and it's, it's funny. A lot of my politics, I would say, is very progressive politics. I also, I guess, have conservative leanings. And I think it's just an age thing. I'm 52 years old. I think if you're going to spend money, you should have a budget to how you're going to spend money. I mean, it's a household. That's what we do. I think if you're going to create policies in schools for kids about bullying, and you want to address trauma and become trauma informed, then you have to be willing to put counselors and therapists into the school that can deal with the trauma, but can hold kids who bully accountable.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean lock them up in prison. That doesn't mean but it means, how are you going to deal with this and deal with it cohesively so that everyone kind of follows these rules? And yes, we all know different kids, different circumstances. We're aware of that. But that's where I get to. So we've created policies that were very standoffish, and we're very standoffish with our kids of color because there's a belief they can't handle X, Y, and Z. And I feel like when you put that out there, you are saying to me you're racist. So as progressive as you want to be, I'm not buying it. Because if I did something wrong, I had to pay the consequences for my action.
Absolutely.
When my daughter does something wrong, she has to pay the consequences of my action. I came from a family where both my parents did drugs and alcohol. I mean, it was all over the news, except it wasn't like today because we didn't have internet, or it would have been everywhere. Right? Yeah. That's the only difference. Yeah. But I survived and I paid, I was accountable for my behavior and my actions, regardless of what was happening at home, because that's what I was told. It was like, all right, you can have that at home, but you're not going to behave this way here. And let me tell you why. Because your education is important. What you're going to learn is important for your future success. If you want out, this is how you're going to get out.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's deep. I know.
Wow.
Great.
Dang, super deep.
Woo! You're like, shut up, child. I'm sorry.
I gotta take a breath.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Like, I'm telling you, I felt every word you said, and I have goose flesh. I was just like, whoa. I'm gonna lighten it up because
please.
just a little bit, because
right?
I cannot let this moment go without saying, loved head of class. Yeah. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, I should say to her, I grew up watching Head of Class, and I thought that when people hear that, they're like, how old do you think I am? And girl, I'm older than you. But I grew
No, you're not.
Black don't crack.
Right, not at all, girl. Because
look at you.
Look at you. You need to go back to grade school. You look like you're 35.
I think we'll both go back to grade school together because we both Black don't crack.
Right, FBI calling us. Look, can you pass for 35? We need you to hook up. Da 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 da.
I remember watching you and thinking, look, it's a moment that I remember so many years later.
And what's crazy even about that, so I created that role. They didn't have something like that on Head of the Class. It was an open call audition. I went and I did a monologue. I believe I did a Spanish well, that wouldn't be Spanish. So Latino housekeeper at the time and something else and whatever, and these monologues. And I was like, oh my God, can you come back tomorrow? And can you write us a teenager? So I went home and I looked in the paper and saw this article about gangs and da-da-da. And I used to be part of working with gangs. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to create this rap character. And I went into the audition and literally did a monologue and rapped and got hired on the spot for head of the class. They were like, we want to use that character. Oh, and by the way, you playing it. And so that's how I got head of the class. And
sweet.
I was only supposed to be on 2 episodes. And the first episode, it was taped in front of a live audience. And I went out and did the taping. Afterwards, they introduced the cast and I got a standing ovation.
Nice.
Kids in the audience. And then that night I got a call saying, would you be a regular on our show? And that went on. And so I was for the next 3 years. And that was it.
TJ Jones.
TJ Jones. Theola June. Her real name was Theola June Jones, right?
I remember the first name.
Right.
Theola.
I just remember Theola. I think in one episode they gave her name. Yeah. Theola June Jones. Yeah. Wow. Hilarious. That's why she was TJ, because nobody wants to call Theola when they're 13.
How old were you when you did that role?
18, 19. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 20 when it ended. Oh my God.
Seriously though, where did the time go?
I know, right? To my hips. That's where it went. I went to my hips, I tell you.
Oh, don't even joke. But I because when I even think about head of class and when it's hard to even believe it was that long ago. It feels like it wasn't. And then I look at like my grown children or whatever, and I'm like, no, it's a while ago.
Crazy? We have children like that. I know, right? I'm so amazed. Yeah,
it is. And just as an aside, please tell Lotus that I watched the video of her in the dance class. And what was it that was attacking
the cicada?
Her? Oh my God. I laughed. Then I felt bad because I was laughing. But I'm like, she can't see me laughing. I'm like, she can't see me laughing. Right.
Girl, we laughed so hard. I thought that was the funniest thing I had ever seen. And then went right back to dancing.
I know, but I was like, all you see is I did.
My daughter and Bugs do not get along. Hilarious.
Oh my God. I hear her. I have a spider thing. Like, my partner in life, he actually refers to me as the murderer because I'm constantly hunting them down because I can't live like this. I can't live if I feel like there's an invasion of spiders. But so I get her thing. But yeah. So what are her goals in life? Like, she comes from a history of entertainers, right? Because your mom was too.
She likes performing, just not in front of people necessarily. Like she looks at TikTok, like it's just fun to do with my friends. And it just keeps me in contact with my friends. I'm like, whatever. But she doesn't really have an interest yet in performing. Like that's mom's thing. And she said, what if I don't want to do that? Would you be disappointed? I'm like, no, but it is in your genes, Lotus. You have it naturally. Like she's naturally hilarious. She's naturally a great dancer and mover. Like, so I wonder, but she's also good with math and science. So who knows?
Cool.
She might end up, she's like, look, I want to make money. I need someone who's going to cook for me because I don't want to cook eggs. Ew. Like she's that girl. I'm like, who developed this little valley girl? Like really in Baltimore of all places.
Gotta love those goals.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's hilarious. So I'm like, oh, those are your goals. And she's like, yeah. So the only jobs that give money is like real estate, a lawyer, or a doctor, maybe a vet. Like that's her plan. So I'm like, all right, Miss 13, know it all.
Yes, I run with it. Parents again. What would you say was the biggest influence or the biggest thing that you got from either of your parents, like from your dad, aside from the great sense of humor,
both my dad and my mom, I think what I got is blunt honesty and truth. I don't know how not tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. I've never been a good liar. So yeah, that won't happen. So yeah, that's what I got. Well, my dad was always very honest and very truthful. And he said, do this like be in the industry for as long as you feel excited. And when you stop feeling excited, stop. And I've done that a few times where I'm not excited and I've stopped to do, other direction, like the DEI stuff or, working with the Jewish Women's International Federation and that kind of stuff. Like, that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Those are great gifts. That's awesome, right? It's awesome. You can't ask for better. Truth and honesty. It really, because that's
integrity.
Attributes. Also I look for integrity.
That's something I got both from my I would say my grandfather, really. He was known because he was Danny Kaye's manager back in the day. And he was known as the manager who you could shake his hand and you knew the contract was done.
Oh.
Then he could write it up. So it was like that. He was known because he was known for his impeccable word. And I really believe in that. So I come from that same place.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I'm so loving this conversation.
I love talking to you.
You are amazing. Now
so you.
Now I'm going to be on your Facebook even more. Just kidding. Please don't call anybody. don't tag me as a stalker.
You can totally be like, what's up, Ray? I'll be like, hey, boo.
No, I'm so glad because I don't know if you remember, I really wanted you to come up to Canada for fried chicken and latkes.
I know.
But we couldn't get it to work out and then everything else interfered. So, for me, this was a great opportunity. I also went and saw the documentary at the Toronto Jewish Film Festival because I think I posted pictures of the lineup of people waiting to get in.
I was so excited about that.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Thank you.
So this has been incredible for me.
Thank you.
And
it's been incredible for me.
Oh, thanks. So so thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy life, because I know it is. I see what you're posting on Facebook. You're busy. So I thank you so much for that. It was my absolute pleasure to have you, Rain Pryor. And just Rain Pryor. Boom.
Thank you, Rivka.
All right.
All right. Ciao, Bella.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Rivkush. I'm Rivka Campbell. Michael Freeman is our producer. Our music is by Westside Gravy. You can find us at thecjn.ca. If you liked it, please leave a review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
It's time we talk about more than just the tragedy, the hardships we've overcome and the savagery. It's time we focus on what's woven in the tapestry, the roots that connect us to our truth and the canopy of every single branch of our tradition. The story that's been told and those yet to be written. A tale of persistence and account of achievement. All across the globe, every single place that them leaves went. Scattered in the wind, never scattered too thin. To remember where we come from and the goal that's within. Zahav Yerushalayim, Asur Lishkoach, Hakdushat Haaretz, Shenoten Lanu Koach. Scattered in the wind, never scattered too thin. To remember where we come from and the goal that's within.